I think any theology that depends on violence and retribution in order for it to work is morally bankrupt. And there are lots of theologies that do this. Any sort of theology of eternal conscious hell, any sort of, Jesus is going to return and violently destroy all of his enemies, any sort of like God needed to punish Jesus on the cross in order to forgive sins. These are all violent, retributive forms of theology, which then have really dangerous implications for how followers of this theology behave today, because then they believe that violence is okay for taking the country back for God, or hitting your children to teach them lessons is fine. Like, you can see the direct lines between these violent theologies and violent actions. And I know people like on Twitter and threads are like, yeah, but the Bible is violent, so you have to throw it all out. Like, no. You as a reader of Scripture get to choose your hermeneutical lens, your lens of interpretation when reading the Bible. So you can look at the passages that ascribe violence unto God and say, yep, that is accurate. That is it. That's the end of the story. Or you can ask, I wonder if something else is going on. Maybe the authors had violent images of God that later authors were going to challenge and push back on, which is exactly what the Hebrew Bible does. Maybe that those images of violence are actually being used in an ironic way to prove the opposite point, which is exactly what the book of Revelation does. You as the reader get to decide that. And if you assume violence is the way, then it's no surprise that you're going to read violence into the words of Scripture. And if you feel like nonviolence and love and respect of human beings is the way, then it's no surprise that your hermeneutical, your interpretive lens of the Bible is going to look like that as well. You get to choose. Now, I think Scripture points us in a direction away from violence and towards love. I think Scripture has a trajectory in that way. But it's very easy to miss or avoid or ignore that trajectory if you're already committed to the way of violence.